My father attended every single one of my brother's games. Every home game, every away game, every tournament that required a hotel room. He came to mine once. He left at halftime. I was 17 years old, standing at the edge of the bleachers in full uniform. The game had been over for maybe 10 minutes. I was still wearing my cleats. I scanned the stands the way I had learned not to do years earlier. The way you do when you already know the answer, but you look anyway. He was not there, but I knew he had been there at the start. I saw him during warm-ups, standing near the top row with his coat still on. He was wearing the same coat he wore to every game my brother played. My mother found me in the parking lot. She said something came up. He said to tell you play great. I nodded. I had practiced that nod for a long time. I changed out of my uniform in the bathroom instead of the locker room, so no one would see my face. I am 12 years old, and the baseball schedule is on the refrigerator. It is printed on white paper with blue ink and held up by a magnet shaped like a baseball. Ryan's games are marked in highlighter yellow, and his practices are in orange. My father coaches one of his weekday practices every Tuesday from 5 to 7. Dinner on game nights is timed around the first pitch. We eat at 4:30 if Ryan plays at 6. We eat at 8 if Ryan plays at 5. The table is set around whatever time the game ends. My soccer schedule is on my phone. 2 practices a week on Mondays and Wednesdays from 4 to 5:30. Games on Saturdays at 9 in the morning. My shin guards are in the hallway by the front door. My cleats are in the same spot every time. I move them to the side so no one trips. When I mention a game, my father says good luck. He means it. I know he means it because he looks at me when he says it. But he has never asked what time my game starts. He has never asked who we are playing. He has never asked if I'm starting or sitting. I am 13 when I win a starting position on the varsity squad, a year ahead of my grade. The coach calls me into his office after practice and tells me himself. I run home and find my father in the kitchen reading the mail. I tell him at dinner. I say, I made varsity. He says that is great, kiddo. Ryan asks what is for dessert. My father answers him. He says there is ice cream in the freezer. Ryan gets up and gets a bowl, and my father does not look back at me. I sit there with my fork in my hand. I have just told him something that took 2 years of running and being yelled at and ice packs on my knees. And the conversation is over because someone asked about dessert. I am 13, and I already know something I should not have to know. He is not going to notice on his own. He is not going to ask. He is not going to show up unless someone puts it on the refrigerator in yellow highlighter. And no one is ever going to do that for me. I sat in my bedroom at 15 and counted what my father attended for Ryan. I did not know why I did it. I closed my door and opened my phone, and I just started counting. For years of Ryan's baseball, every regular season home game. That was 48 games just on our field. Most away games within an hour of our house. That was another 23. Every playoff game, every single one. The regional championship twice. I wrote the numbers down on a piece of notebook paper. I folded the paper and put in my nightstand drawer. I was not angry when I counted. I was just putting numbers on something I already knew. Then I counted what he attended for me. Same 4 years. Same sport, different season. Year 1, he came to 2 of my games. He stood near the top row, and he stayed for both of them. Year 2, he came to 1 game. He left at the final whistle, but he was there. Year 3, he did not come to any. Not one. I checked the schedule 3 times to make sure I was not wrong. I was not wrong. Year 4, he came to 1 game. He left at halftime. That is the full attendance record. 8 seasons of my soccer across 4 years. He saw me play 3 full games in 1 half. My mother asked me once why I was quiet at dinner. I asked her why Dad did not come to more of my games. She was loading the dishwasher, and she did not stop loading it. She said he finds soccer hard to follow. She said he did not grow up with it. She said it is just not the same for him. I was 14 years old. I went to my room after that conversation. I opened my laptop, and I looked up the rules of baseball. I already knew the rules of baseball. Everyone in my house knew the rules of baseball. I sat there and thought about how long it takes to learn a sport you love watching. How many games you have to sit through before you understand the offside rule or the handball rule or why a yellow car matters. How many times you have to hear something before it stops sounding like noise. My father learned baseball because Ryan played baseball. He stood in the sun and the rain for 4 years, and he learned it. I am 14, and I already understand something my mother does not want me to understand. The explanation is not the reason. The explanation is just what people say when they do not want to say the real thing. I have never said this out loud. Not once. Not to my mother, not to Ryan, not to my father. I have carried the real thing in my chest for years like a coin I keep finding in my pocket, and I have never once spent it. I printed a schedule at 15 and walked it to my father in the living room. I had circled one game in red marker. A Saturday at 11 in the morning against a team we had lost it twice. I handed him the paper, and I said, "This is the one I really want you to see." He looked at the paper and nodded. He said he would try to make it. I stood there waiting for more. He looked back at the television. Saturday came, and I played the whole game. We won by 2 goals. I looked for him in the stands after the final whistle. He was not there. I carried that circled schedule in my bag for a month before I threw it away. At 16, I scored the winning goal in a regional semifinal. The ball came off a corner kick, and I volleyed it from 12 yards out. I knew it was in the second it left my foot. My teammates tackled me, and I could not breathe from laughing and crying at the same time. We pulled ourselves off the grass, and I ran to the parking lot to call home. My father answered on the third ring. I said I scored the winning goal. I said we are going to the final. He said, "That is great, kiddo. I'm proud of you." I heard the television in the background. I heard the crack of a bat and an announcer's voice. Ryan was there. They were watching a game together. I stood in the parking lot with my cleats still on and my hair still wet. I said, "Thanks, Dad." He said he would talk to me later. I hung up and walked back to my team. I did not cry. I stood at the edge of the field and watched my teammates hug each other. And I made a decision I could not have put into words if someone had asked me. Something closed. Not slammed. Just closed. I stopped circling dates on schedules. I stopped leaving printed papers on the kitchen counter. I stopped mentioning games at dinner. I stopped looking for him in the stands. I played the rest of that season for myself and for my teammates. And the playing was actually better. I was faster because I stopped turning my head to check the top row. I was sharper because I stopped wondering who was watching. I was 16 years old and I had stopped asking. But stopping asking is not the same as being okay. The thing I closed is still in there. I have felt it every time I have sat across from my father at a holiday dinner. Every time he has asked how my job is going. Every time he has said he is proud of me without knowing what he is talking about. The thing is still in there, and I have never figured out what it would take to reopen it. I am 26 years old, sitting at a family Thanksgiving dinner. My father is across the table talking to my aunt about Ryan. She asked a polite question about baseball. She probably does not even like baseball. My father talked for 40 minutes. I timed it. 40 minutes of batting averages and RBI totals in a game from junior year where Ryan went 3 for 4. He remembered the pitcher's name from that game. He remembered the count on the last at-bat. He remembered everything. Ryan sat next to him and smiled and ate his dinner. Later that evening, my father asked me how work was going. I told him in 2 sentences. I said, "It is fine. I am up for a promotion next quarter." He nodded and looked across the room and asked Ryan something about his job. I do not remember what he asked Ryan. I remember standing up from the table. I walked to the kitchen and stood by the sink for a few minutes. My mother came in and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. She touched my arm and went back to the dining room. I stood there a little longer, and then I went back too. Driving home that night, I called my closest friend Sarah. I told her what happened at dinner, and then I said out loud for the first time in my life. I said my father has 2 children, and he has only ever had one. I waited for her to tell me I was being dramatic. She did not say that. She said, "I know." She said, "Everyone who has ever spent time with your family knows." I drove in silence for a minute. She said, "We have all seen it at every birthday party, every graduation, every barbecue. She said we just never knew what to say to you about it. I pulled into my driveway and sat in my car with the engine off. Everyone knew. It was never invisible. It was never subtle. It was never something I imagined or exaggerated or misread. It was just never named. And the fact that it was never named was its own kind of decision. A decision made by my father first, and then by everyone else who did not want to be the one to break the silence. I sat in my dark driveway at 26 years old, and I realized I had been protecting something. Not him, not my mother, not Ryan. I had been protecting myself from the answer to a question I had never actually asked. What would he say if I told him I knew? What would he say if I stopped pretending I had not noticed? I still did not know. But sitting there in my car, I knew I was going to find out. My therapist asked me a question I have thought about every single day since. She said, describe your relationship with your father in one word. I sat there in the chair with my hands in my lap and the afternoon light coming through her blinds. I took a long moment because I wanted to give her a real answer, not something easy. I said, careful. She wrote something down, and then she said, tell me what you mean by that. I said, I have always been careful around him. Careful not to need too much. Careful not to make him uncomfortable. Careful not to bring up anything that might require him to feel bad. Careful not to become a problem he would have to address. I told her about the Thanksgiving dinner where I timed the 40 minutes. I told her about the phone call after the winning goal. I told her about the schedule I printed and circled in red marker. She listened to all of it, and then she asked me when I decided to be careful. I thought about it for a long time. I said I do not think I decided. I think it was more like learning the temperature of a room. You walk in and you feel it, and you adjust without thinking about it. You do it so many times that it stops feeling like a choice. She leaned forward a little, and she asked me what would happen if I stopped adjusting. I sat there for a long time. I could hear the clock on her wall ticking. I could hear cars outside on the street. I could hear my own breathing. I could not hear myself answer because I did not have one. She waited, and I did not speak. She waited longer, and I still did not speak. The session ended, and I left, and I walked to my car, and I sat there with the engine off. I still did not have an answer. 2 weeks later, my father called me on a Tuesday afternoon. I almost did not answer because I was at work, and his name on my phone still makes something tighten in my chest. I answered anyway. He said he wanted to have lunch, just the two of us. He said it has been a while since we spent time together, just the two of us. I said yes before I had decided whether I meant it. I hung up and stood in my kitchen holding my phone. The therapist's question was still sitting in my chest like a stone. What would happen if I stopped adjusting? I had never stopped adjusting. Not once in 26 years. Every conversation, every holiday, every dinner, every phone call. I had been careful. I had kept the temperature steady. I had made sure not to be the thing that made him look uncomfortable in his own life. Now he wanted lunch. Just the two of us. That had not happened since I was in college. And even then, it was always with my mother there too. I did not know if he was finally noticing that something was wrong, or if he just had a free Tuesday and thought of me. I went into that lunch carrying the question, and I did not know if I was going to answer it or keep carrying it forever. He picked the restaurant, a place he likes near his house where we have eaten a dozen times before. The same booth in the corner, the same waitress who knows his order. I let him choose because I've spent my whole life letting him choose. The first 20 minutes are surface conversation. My job is retirement Ryan's kids and how fast they are growing. I answer his questions, and I ask mine, and I wait. I have gotten very good at waiting. He tells me over the main course that he has been thinking lately about when Ryan and I were young. He says he feels good about how we turned out. He says he hopes I know he is proud of me. He says it genuinely. His eyes are on mine, and his voice is soft, and I believe he means it. I do not think he is lying. I think he has felt proud of me from a distance for a very long time. And I think he has never once asked himself whether that was enough. I put my fork down. I ask him if he remembers the one game of mine he came to. He thinks for a moment. He says, I think so, yes, the soccer. He says you were really something out there. I ask him if he remembers how long he stayed. He pauses. He says he had to leave early. He says something came up he thinks. He says he does not remember exactly. I tell him he left at halftime. He nods slowly. I tell him I knew he was there during warm-ups because I saw him, standing near the top row with his coat still on. I tell him I looked for him in the second half, and he was gone. He is quiet. I tell him I counted his attendances once. I say I sat in my bedroom at 15 with a piece of notebook paper. I tell him the numbers. 48 home games for Ryan. 23 away games. Every playoff game. The regional championship twice. I tell him the numbers for me. 3 full games and 1 half across 8 seasons. He looks at the table. He says he did not realize. I say I know you did not. I say that is exactly what I needed you to understand. He is still looking at the table. The waitress comes by and asks if we want dessert. Neither of us answers. She walks away. He has heard it. Clearly without drama, without me crying, without anyone making a scene. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse him of not loving me. I just told him the truth. And now he is sitting across from me, and he has not responded yet. He has not said he is sorry. He has not said he will do better. He has not said anything at all. He is just sitting there with his hands on the table, and I'm sitting across from him, and I do not know if he is going to speak or if we are just going to sit here until one of us leaves. Robert does not speak for a long moment. The table is quiet, and the restaurant noise keeps going around us. He finally asks me if I have felt this way for a long time. I say since I was about 12. He absorbs this. I watch his face, and he does not dispute it. He does not tell me I am remembering wrong. He does not tell me I am being too sensitive. He just sits there and takes it in. He starts to say something about not having understood soccer. He gets 3 words out, and then he stops himself. Mid-sentence, he just stops. I watch him do it, and it is the most significant thing he has done in this entire conversation. He did not finish the excuse. He caught it coming out of his mouth, and he stopped it. He tries again. He says he thinks he gave Ryan more of his time because Ryan asked for it more directly. He says Ryan was always coming to him with schedules and questions and asking for rides. He says he read my independence as not needing him. He says he understands now that he was wrong about what my independence meant. I listen to him finish. I let the words sit in the air between us. Then I say what I have been holding since I was 12 years old. I say I did not stop asking because I did not need you. I say I stopped asking because every time I asked, nothing happened. I say I was 12 years old and I did not know what else to do. Robert does not look away from me when I say this. Not once. His eyes stay on mine and his hands are still on the table. He says I know. He says I am sorry. 2 words. I have imagined hearing those 2 words from him maybe 100 times. And now I have heard them, and they do not fix anything. But they are not nothing either. I do not tell him it is okay, because it is not okay. I say I needed you to know that it happened. He says I know it happened. We sit there with that. The waiter comes by and asks if we need anything else. Neither of us moves to ask for the check. The waiter walks away. I look at my father across the table. He apologized, and he did not look away. He did not make excuses. He did not turn around on me. He just said he was sorry. But an apology at 60 years old is not the same as a father standing in the stands. An apology does not put him in the bleachers on a Saturday morning when I am 13. An apology does not make him ask about my game at dinner. An apology is just words. And I have spent my whole life being careful around his words. I do not know what to do with this. I do not know if I am supposed to forgive him now. I do not know if I am supposed to keep holding it. I just know he said it and he meant it. And both things are true at the same time. He meant it, and it still happened. I drive home from the restaurant with my hands steady on the wheel. I call my friend Sarah, the same one I called after Thanksgiving. She answers on the first ring, and I tell her everything. The booth, the waitress, the fork down, the numbers, the halftime, the apology. She asks me how I feel. I say I do not know yet. That is the most honest answer I have ever given about my father. I sit in my driveway for 10 minutes before I go inside. Robert texts me that evening. He says he's glad we talked. He says he loves me. Short text, no punctuation, just words on a screen. I read it 3 times. The first time I just look at it. The second time, I try to feel something specific. The third time I put the phone down. I do not respond that night. My mother calls the next morning. She says Robert told her about the lunch. Her voice is careful the way it has always been careful. She says she hopes it went okay. She says he seemed shaken when he came home. I tell her it went fine. I tell her I am glad he was shaken. I say because the conversation was about something real. There's a pause on her end. She says she did not know it was that bad. I say I know you did not. She says she wishes she had done more. I do not say anything to that because I do not know what there is to say. We end the call, and I stand in my kitchen. My father knows now. My mother knows now. Robert is shaken, and Carol is careful, and I have finally said the thing. But Ryan does not know any of it. He was not at the lunch. He did not get the text. He is still living inside the same story where his dad came to every game. Because his dad did come to every game, that story is still true for him. And the family's existing story about itself is still intact. Everywhere except between me and my father. I do not know if that changes. I do not know if Ryan ever asks. I do not know if my mother ever stops being careful. I do not know if my father ever stops needing to be reminded. I just know I'm not carrying it alone anymore. And that is not nothing, but is not everything either. I waited 2 days before I responded to my father's text. I wanted to feel something clear before I wrote back. I never got it clear, so I just wrote what was true. I said I'm glad we talked too. Nothing else. No exclamation point, no. I love you too, no emojis to soften it. Just the truth. He responded within a minute. He said he would like to do it again if I am open to it. I looked at that line for a long time. If I am open to it. He asked. He did not assume. I said I am open to it. 2 months passed before the next family gathering. My mother's birthday at their house. Same living room, same kitchen, same refrigerator that used to hold the baseball schedule. Robert's behavior was not transformed. He still talked about Ryan's kids for a long time. He still told the same stories about the same games. He still gravitated toward what he already knew. But at one point during the evening, he came and stood next to me. He asked me a question about my work. A real question, not just how is it going. He asked about the project I had mentioned at the lunch. And he stayed in the conversation when I answered. He did not look across the room. He did not find someone else to talk to. He stood there and listened. It was not enough. It will never be enough to undo the years of looking for him in the stands. But it was not nothing either. I have learned that 2 things can be true at the same time. It was not enough, and it was not nothing. I did not tell Ryan any of it. I thought about it a few times. I thought about sitting him down and showing him the numbers the way I showed my father. But Ryan did not do anything. He was 9 years old when the schedule went on the refrigerator. He did not ask to be the one the room organized itself around. That was never his fault. And telling him now would only make him carry something that was never his to carry. So I let him keep his story, the one where his dad came to every game, because that story is true for him. And me having a different story does not mean his is a lie. What I carry forward is not anger anymore. It is quieter than that. It is the knowledge that I said it, that he heard it, and that I no longer have to be careful in the same way I was careful before. I still check the stands sometimes. That habit is not going anywhere. But I am not looking for him anymore. I'm just looking. I'm over at where silence ends. What is the thing you finally stopped adjusting around?